My name's Zio, and if you've been with the channel for a while, you probably know who Shiori is. The little dog who I sometimes show off here on community posts, pictures of her on X, as well as my Discord, and most recently, I've been putting her on camera during my streams. Well, I regret to inform you that as of 2 days ago, April 3rd, 2026, she is no longer with us. I'm going to do my best to maintain my composure while I record this. I'll cut those parts out, of course. There's no script here. You're just getting Zio from the heart as not just the creator, but as the man and the grieving pet parent. I guess we'll start with how she came into my life. Those events were set in motion before she was even born. It all started in 2009. I'd gotten out of college, the recession was at its peak, and I couldn't really get anything going. It was kind of depressing. Then I lost my mom on Thanksgiving the following year, and that just made things way worse. It was just my dad and I with the little dog that was my mom's. We'd end up losing that one a couple years later after we'd gotten home from my birthday dinner. That one completely blindsided us, but I digress. So fast forward to 2013, the depression was back with a vengeance, and I started having thoughts of self-deletion. And if you've been with the channel for a while, you probably know that I had tried this myself with a doorknob and a computer cable. I kept pulling, and right as I was starting to feel something, I fell backwards and opened the door behind me. Then fast forward to Thanksgiving that year, I was just super depressed. I was crying a lot. Near the end of that weekend, I told my dad and my sister I wanted to fucking die. So they took me to the nearby hospital, had me admitted to the psychiatric unit where I'd spent 72 hours. One of the patients there was just an absolute bitch on wheels to the hospital staff, even to a couple of the other patients. She liked me though. And then my dad came to see me one day and we got to talking and he said, I think we should get a dog. And then fast forward to a little before Christmas that year, my dad and I got a couple of Morkie pups, one of whom would become Shiori. The little blonde one that you see running around with her is her sister, believe it or not. My stepmom at the time named her Gracie. One of my stepsisters fell absolutely head over heels in love with this dog. She and her husband took in Gracie after losing their other little dog. So what exactly is a Morkie? Well, it's a cross between a Yorkshire Terrier and a Maltese. Maltese have been around for thousands of years and they were primarily raised as imperial lapdogs. Eventually they made their way to England where they'd serve as lapdogs for nobility, and of course eventually they'd find their way here to the US. The Yorkie, on the other hand, didn't get to be a thing until about the 19th century in England. These guys were honest-to-God working dogs with the task of hunting and killing rats. Their long hair served as a natural armor against rat bites. They also got really popular with Victorian nobility. They have such huge personalities for being such small dogs. The Morkie didn't really get to be a thing until around the late 1990s, right as the designer dog trend was popping off. It's a combination of the Maltese's laid-back lapdog nature with the fiery personality of the Yorkie. They're very loving dogs. They're also really good watchdogs. Maybe too good. Once they start barking, it's hard to get them to shut the hell up sometimes. Sometimes I'd be like, Tamare, Hina! Shut up, dog. They're real good companions for singles and older folks. They're also real good for people with allergies because they have hair like ours instead of fur. They can live to be about 13 or 14. So why Shiori? Why that name over anything else out there? I'd first heard of the name Shiori through this Japanese dating sim called Tokimeki Memorial. Each game in the series has a flagship girl that's featured on the box art and all the promotional material. Shiori Fujisaki was the main girl for the first game. You play as a high school student and the game takes place over the 3 years that you're there. During that time, you do activities to raise your stats like study and work out. You go on dates with girls and build rapport with them. The ultimate goal is to get one of them to confess their love to you after graduation. Shiori, of course being the main character, was the toughest one to get. One of my oldest online friends actually had a character on PSO1 named Shiori. We've been in touch on and off for the past quarter century. They even came and hung out in the streams when I started doing that. I guess life got to life and like it usually does, and they kind of fell off. I hope they're doing alright. I know I'm all over the place with this damn thing. I always liked the name, and one of the translations for it is bookmark. And what does one do with a bookmark? Well, it helps you find your place. It couldn't have been more right. It couldn't have been more perfect, given what I talked about earlier. She certainly helped me find my place, that's for sure. Things have gotten better over the years. She was always such a sweetheart, but she did have somewhat of a gangster side. Whenever another dog would try to mess with her, she'd put them in their place. It didn't matter how big they were either. It was never overly aggressive though. It was more her way of just saying, yo, I need you to back the fuck off me. I do have something of a temper, and whenever that flared up, it would really scare her. We always had a solid relationship though. She always hated it whenever I'd go away for a few days. When she was younger, she'd cry and make messes in the house. Your classic separation anxiety. I worked with her on that to help try and desensitize her. You know, daddy going away for a little while isn't the end of the world. She got better with it over time. There was one time when I went to Magic Mountain with my cousins and we were gone for about 12 hours. Shiori, of course, spent the day in her crate. When we got home that night, I was expecting my nose to be assaulted with the smell of piss and shit. I go to my room to grab her and take her outside, and to my astonishment, the crate was clean. No pee, no poop. Just Shishi with her water bowl. I was a very proud man that evening. For the longest time, she would not walk on a leash. If you hooked her up to one, she would just freeze. Then one day, she started taking those first steps, slowly but surely. I was a very proud man that day as well. She always slept by my feet, but if she wasn't feeling well and had to go to the bathroom at night, she would jump off the bed and walk towards the door. So how did we get to this point exactly? About every 3 or 4 months, she would get fairly sick, you know, the classic diarrhea, vomiting, this, that, and the other. Some nights the floor in my room would be a minefield. Sometimes I'd have to give her a bath. Usually by around day 3 or 4, this little fake-out queen would bounce back like it never even happened. Like, is this dog a Saiyan? Did she have another Zenkai boost? Then after one particular episode, it was a little after Halloween in 2024, I decided to change her diet. I took her off the kibble and switched her to the farmer's dog. These episodes were fewer and farther in between after that. After the start of the year, there were some subtle changes. There was some cognitive decline, and it got harder for her to keep up with me on our walks every morning. This last episode began the day before my birthday. By about Tuesday, she had a hard time standing up for too long. She would walk over to where she usually does her business, and then walk away, then sit down. Sometimes she would get up and go again. She would get to the base of the steps on her front porch and just stand there, eventually sit down. I had to start carrying her in and out of the house. Thankfully, she wasn't a heavy dog. And then Wednesday evening, I tried to feed her one more time. I put a little bit of her food in with some rice to help bulk her up. She stared at it for a solid 5 minutes and didn't touch a single bite. Normally, she would scarf that shit down. And then Thursday morning came. She drank a bunch of water, and then not even 5 minutes later, it all came back up. It had little black chunks in it, which were probably blood. This happened a few more times throughout that day. That pretty much sealed the deal. I knew then and there this was it. We called the local vet, and they wanted to do all these diagnostics, blood work, fecals, this, that, and the other. They wanted to charge over $1,000 for that shit. And if it was determined there was no saving her, it would have been another $400 to have her put down on top of that. I then called our local humane society. They would do the deed for $80. However, I couldn't go into the room with her when the deed was done. So I pulled the trigger on making the appointment for the next day, which ironically was Good Friday. So Thursday evening played out as usual, but I had to carry her outside to do her business. She'd stand up for about a minute here and there, and then lay back down. I scooped her up and took her back to my room and then gently set her down on the floor at the foot of my bed where she usually sleeps. And then around 5 o'clock Friday morning, I hear her moving. I didn't think much of it. It was just like, oh, she's probably just moving and getting comfortable. She did this a couple more times, and it was accompanied by a soft whimper. I looked over at her. It was still pretty dark, and I saw she made a mess on the floor. I was like, oh, I'll just clean that up later. So I rolled over again, but there was this heaviness in the air, this eerie silence. At around 6:45, I get out of bed, put my clothes on, turn the light on. Lo and behold, there she was, lying spread eagle, lifeless, on the floor, at the corner of my bed, on the side where I sleep. I picked her head up for a second, and then when I let go, it immediately fell back to the ground. Those final moments were her way of saying goodbye to me, and I missed it. I'll carry that with me for the rest of my life. On the other hand, how could I have known? I'm probably going to nitpick and overanalyze every decision I made when it came to her over these past 12 years. On the upside, though, she died at home, next to someone she loved dearly, rather than being hauled off to a room by a couple of strangers who pump her full of drugs. She did it her way. What I do know is that she's in a far better place than any of us are right now. I mean, just look around and you'll see what an absolute shit show this world is. Not to get super spiritual, but I do believe in God. I do believe that Jesus Christ died on the cross for our sins and that he rose from the dead. There's always the hope that I'll see her again someday when my time here is done. That's all I got. Plus a shitload of memories. No one can take that from me. Thanks to this channel, I've met some really wonderful people and cultivated some pretty strong friendships. I got a great family too. If not for them, this would have been a million times worse than it already is. The next day, I had to DJ an after party for an in-game wedding. Well, technically I didn't have to. I mean, if I really wasn't feeling it, I could have reached out to one of the others, and I'm sure they would have happily gone in my stead. I'm glad I did, though, and I definitely needed it more than I may have realized. The very beginning of that stream was a very beautiful, organic moment that I got to share with everyone. I have several friends who are more than just numbers, and this showed me that I didn't have to face this alone. Our time here is finite, so cherish the time that you have with your loved ones, whether they walk on 2 legs or 4. As much as I want to say I'm done with animals, I can't completely take it off the table. The worst thing I could do is lose my capacity for love. It's important to protect yourself, sure, but if you're not careful, that armor can become an idol in your life. I wanted to say a big thank you to everyone who reached out during these past couple of days, whether it's a reply to that X post or DM on Discord. Just thank you. Shiori was every bit part of the Zeoverse as everyone else. So once again, thank you all from the bottom of my heart, and thank you to Shiori for 12 wonderful years. my ride or die, my little home girl, my good and faithful partner. I'll always love you. And remember, to thine own self be true. Until next time, farewell.